Welcome to another live episode, Pound for Pound Box Report, episode 408. I'm your host, Michael. Joining me this week, as usual, Gail from nyfights.com, Daniel from Four Boxing News, and the Inscriber. What's going on, lady and gent?
Well, folks, I don't know whether this is going to be a barbecue or a fish fry tonight, but it'll be something tasty. We promise you that.
Yeah.
And if you
Given
watch
the
the Spence Crawford pressers, if you know, you know.
right. Um, and Gail's dogs agree in the background.
Ah,
For
yeah,
those
he's all
for
for it.
For those who are new to Pound for Pound Box Report, Pound for Pound Box Report, live YouTube show, podcast, as well as blog, site, etc., discussing all things boxing. The motto is when boxing is good, we will talk about it. When it's bad, we will talk about it. The bottom line is if it has any concern with the sweet science, it will get discussed. If you want to find out all things about Pound for Pound Boxing Report, please go to the site, p4pboxingreport.com. If you wish to email us with any questions, thoughts, suggestions, etc., you can do so, p4pboxing at p4pboxingreport.com. On the site, you'll find where to check out the show on where to check out Pound for Pound Box Report on all social media platforms. Uh, the links to the YouTube channel, the links to the Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, IG page, where you can check out the show on all podcast platforms, be it Spotify, be it Anchor, be it um, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast, you should be able to find Pound for Pound Box Report. If you wish to donate, contribute some coin, please do so. Got links to Cash Me and PayPal donation links um, on the site. Wouldn't matter for us if it was $1, $2, $5, whatever bit you could spare. We will be eternally grateful. If you're checking this out on YouTube, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. And also, please check out the link to BODI, formerly known as Beachbody, right? Um, just getting on the verge of summer. If you're looking to get your body right, please check out BODI programs for any and all fitness interests and goals. If you're looking to lift weights, I suggest you check out Lift 4 or the new updated version, Lift More. If you're looking to really challenge yourself, I suggest you check out um, workouts like 645 and 6 weeks of the work, sure thing. If you're looking for a morning workout program, I suggest check out Morning Meltdown, excuse me. Even have programs for those who are into Pilates, yoga, etc. If you're looking for a boxing specific program, I suggest you check out 10 Rounds. That's a 6 week program, 3 days a week of boxing based cardio, 2 days a week of weightlifting. At the very least, take advantage of the free 14-day trial, and that is for 14 days. You get free access to any and all running programs over on BODI, aka Beachbody. Let's get things going this evening, recapping what went down uh, this past weekend, and it was an interesting weekend, right? Not many fights we're going to talk about here, but um, interesting developments that took place, right? Let's go. We're going to save the big fight for last. Let's go uh, to Golden Boy card, right? That took place on the Zone, and the main event was Jaime Munguia returning to the ring of Sergiy Derevyanchenko, right? We've talked about Munguia multiple times, right? Derevyanchenko, many people remember him for his disputed loss to Gennady Golovkin a few years back. Going to you, Gail, we always start the show with ladies first and end the show with ladies first. You were in attendance at this fight. And when we talked about it last week, I said that if Derevyanchenko was right and and didn't show too many signs of age that he could give Munguia a tough go. And man, did he hurt Munguia in this contest. Uh, was able to land with plenty of punches, right? Many people felt that the knockdown that Munguia scored in the last round was the difference when it came to points. But there were also many folks on the night on boxing social media platforms and whatnot who felt that Derevyanchenko felt like, let's just say that Munguia was fortunate to get the win. You were in attendance. Your thoughts on what you witnessed ringside?
Well, the best version of Sergey Derevyanchenko at age 37 we could have possibly asked for showed up. He is normally known as a slow starter. In fact, there was, for the backstory, this is important to know. This was originally scheduled as a 10-round fight, and then Golden Boy decided no to contract it as a 12-round fight. And the guys signed, and then the California State Athletic Commission said, well, wait a minute, there's no title involved. They like to run a tidy ship and said, if there's no title involved, this is a 10-rounder. So they call their friend Mr. Mauricio Suleiman, and suddenly there's a WBC silver title attached to it. There was also discussion about trying to keep it to 10 rounds because Derevyanchenko is known as a slow starter. So Golden Boy offered him, reportedly, 6 figures to drop it back down to 10 rounds. And he said, no, I'm not going to do it. If he had accepted that money, which was reportedly $100,000-ish, and that fight ended after 10 rounds, he would be the winner as we're talking today. He was ahead on the scorecards after 10. Not only did Munguia need both of the last rounds, he needed a knockdown or a knockout to win. And we were cruising toward the middle of the 12th round after 11 and a half rounds of absolutely wild back and forth action with both guys giving and taking multiple times, a lot of wobbly feet on the brink of disaster for both of them. And we've got a minute and a half left. And what do you know? Munguia lands a terrific body punch straight up the middle, sort of an uppercut style body punch to the upper ribs of Derevyanchenko, and it dropped him. How he got back up to finish, especially after the punishment he'd taken, it was very impressive. So the fans more than got their money's worth. And it turned out that knockdown, it wasn't reportedly the difference in the fight. It was the difference in the fight on the cards. The judges agreed on 11 of the 12 rounds among them, which is interesting. Only round 3 was any different. It wouldn't have changed the fight. Dr. Lou Moret gave 1 extra round to Munguia, but it was a very narrow decision. Now, I did initially believe, eye test looking at it, I still would have given it to Derevyanchenko by the narrowest 1-point margin. Having said that, several of us ringside, me included, saw what we thought was a knockdown by Munguia in the 8th round. It was easy to miss because it wasn't, it wasn't an obvious knockdown. It was one of those near glove touch in a fraction of a second. And Munguia had buckled Derevyanchenko. He definitely, got wobbly on his footing, and he dipped down, kind of a little squat, and he straightened himself back up. His knee touched the canvas. It was on the far side of the referee, Gerald White, who did a very good job in the fight. No complaints. It would have been easy to miss. There appeared to be a brief discussion after the round about using replay. It didn't happen. If you factor in that Derevyanchenko dodged that bullet, that is an extra point margin. So I'm not going to argue about the result at all. Obviously, Derevyanchenko is just the most tough luck guy in boxing. He has lost quite a few fights that many of us thought he won. Daniel Jacobs, Gennady Golovkin in particular. Now this one. He did look pretty beat up after the fight. I mean, both of them, had taken some damage. He told us He's absolutely going to continue. When he was asked, are you going to keep fighting? He didn't hesitate. He didn't say, well, I'll think about it. Well, I'll talk to my team. Well, I'll talk to my wife who was standing there with him. It's like, oh, yeah, of course. Oh, yeah. Why are you even asking me that question? Good for him. As long as he seems to be healthy, undamaged, basically, and can earn a paycheck. I mean, he is the best guy with 5 losses on his record in boxing right now. I feel very confident saying that. He was the dance partner Munguia needed. Munguia needed to be pushed. I don't think he realized he was going to be pushed that hard. Munguia could have made it a lot easier on himself. He had a lot more distance to work with. He could have boxed, but he's a Mexican. And I say that with massive respect. He proved deep down he's got that will to engage, to go to war, and he did, much to the thrill of the entire crowd. At points, I could not hear my colleagues on either side of me at all. They certainly couldn't hear me. Oscar De La Hoya and Bernard Hopkins, who were ringside, were visible on the DAZN broadcast on camera, standing up, yelling instructions at Munguia. And on the opposite side of the ring, Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. was doing the color commentary, as he does, for TV Azteca. Senior still gets really excited at fights. And many of you, I'm sure, have seen him do this. He was standing up in his broadcast spot. He's got just a perfect catbird seat right there on the side of the ring. He is standing up, screaming instructions at Munguia. I later asked Golden Boy president Eric Gomez if he could hear what the heck Chavez Senior was saying, or if anybody had watched the Azteca broadcast, was it on the air? And he said he was telling Munguia to go up the middle, go up the middle. That's the punch that won Munguia the fight. So good on you, Chavez Senior. And one little trivia tidbit for everybody listening. There were some fairly notable faces there in Ontario. Oscar is always greeted very warmly in Southern California. Bernard, some of their other fighters. But when Chavez Sr. walks in that arena, you can feel it because of the reaction of the crowd. It does not matter the age, the background. He has so much respect. He is so beloved, and he is great with the fans. After that fight was done, he posed for every selfie. He greeted every fan that said hello to him. That's why he's a champion.
No doubt. He's still revered, right? Many people still consider Chavez Sr. the greatest greatest boxer that Mexico has ever produced. In terms of Derevyanchenko, you mentioned how he says he's going to continue on. Well, hell, I would too. Why would you want to quit, bow out the game off of this performance? I have no problem with him saying he wants to carry on. In terms of Munguia, Gail, you mentioned that he could have boxed and done more. My follow-up question is, can he really box and do more? Because my concern is, yes, I mentioned that Derevyanchenko could give him a lot of problems during the last episode, but he gave him a really, really tough fight, and Munguia had to really dig deep to get the quote unquote win. But is it concerning that he had to go so hard to get the win? And has he tapped out? Is this the best that we going to see of Munguia at this point?
Munguia was very candid after the fight. He and trainer Eric Morales admitted multiple times under questions that, yeah, he's got a lot to work on. He made a lot of mistakes. He said so, he was very upfront about that. And he does have a lot to work on. He did make a lot of mistakes. He was using his face as his defense. He gets hit a
Right.
lot. He has no upper body movement at all. But one of his countrymen in the first portion of his career didn't have that great of upper body movement. And he learned. Canelo Alvarez has wildly improved his defense and his upper body movement. He is much more mobile now than he ever used to be. Munguia is a lot taller, lankier. That's going to be a little harder for him, but there's definitely room for him to improve on that score. The other thing I'm wondering is, if he is really maximizing his punching power. Now, maybe it's just simply that Derevyanchenko's got a granite chin light years above everybody else that Munguia has faced. But Munguia landed what looked like very solid punches on Derevyanchenko. And he did buckle him and snap his head. And certainly the body shots really bothered Derevyanchenko. Munguia did not start working to the body quickly enough. If he was going to be in a firefight and be that close anyway, well, come on, man. Then the body is there. If you're going to box, I get it that you didn't want to risk going to the body, but he was already right there on top of Derevyanchenko. So a lot of us were perplexed why he didn't start working to the body earlier. So he's going to need to tinker with his offensive production. I do think he's got those tools. It's certainly being trained by Morales. They should not have a problem with that. He needs to work on some of the other tactical skills, defensive movement. He can't let his face be what stops the punches all the time, or he is going to get in bigger trouble than he did with a admittedly warrior 37-year-old Derevyanchenko. So we'll see. What was interesting is at the end of the discussion with the news media, or in the midst of it, I should say, post-fight, he got a phone call. He got a phone call from Jose Benavidez Sr., congratulating him on the fight, apparently watched at home in Arizona, or Seattle, or where the hell they're training right now, and said, I'd like you to fight my son. Oh, my God. Thank him and move on. You are not ready for that. And we do need to remind ourselves, Munguia's, he has had 41 fights, but he's still only 25 years old. So 26, pardon me. Benavidez is also a very young fighter, but Munguia isn't seasoned in the same way Benavidez is. So he needs to find another road. He needs another few fights, something more like this without the damage. And then he'll be ready. I do see potential for him fighting some of the other mid-tier super middleweights. There are a lot of them, and they're all looking for a fight, especially if they've already faced the top of the division. There's a logjam there, just as there is in 154, and a few others where there's just no movement. So there are plenty of previous title holders, previous title challengers, that will give him plenty of good fights for the next year or two.
That fight took place in Cali earlier Saturday over in London. Daniel, you had the return of Sonny Edwards defending the flyweight title against Andres Campos. And okay, here's the thing about Edwards, right? He's good behind the mic, and he has a style that's going to be difficult to beat. Going to be difficult for anyone, to beat, be it at 112 or 115, because that he moves around a lot, right? He's like an Energizer Bunny. But the other side of that is this: he's a guy who talks a lot of trash outside of the ring, but often doesn't back it up inside the ring because he moves so much. And as a result, it puts him into the, dare I say, boring category. Good, not good. I'm gonna say good performance. That's the wrong description. He did what he had to do to get the win, but to a lot of people, myself included, after watching the fight right now, didn't necessarily look good doing so. So yeah, victory, yes, but overall, eh.
This is unfortunately the fight that I did miss because I was running errands, but it would not surprise me at all. I did watch some of the highlights from it, and unfortunately, it does look like a typical Sonny Edwards fight. It's a fight that's going to get very technical, but it's going to get very aesthetically hard to watch as it goes on. It's effective for him though because that style does tend to win fights. It's a style that, yeah, it's not pleasing to the eye, but it affects the scores. It scores well when it comes to judges, and so it works. Now, there's only so much you can do when you can get away with when opponents don't know how to figure it out. And Sonny Edwards, say what you want, has gotten away with not meeting a lot of those opponents that can affect him in that manner. The opponent that he wants, Bam Rodriguez, is not one of those fighters. He maybe bite off a little bit more than we could chew in that end because, well, you won the fight. You didn't exactly look. You didn't look really good doing it, but your time may be clicking. You might be the next. Who was it? Calify that lost against Chocolatito last time.
Yes, 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 yes. Good call.
That's the main thing. You can have a good technical, but you can say boring style. But if you have somebody that can be just as technical, but has that instinct to really finish fights, that's a disadvantage I think Sonny Edwards is going to face.
Yeah.
In the aftermath of this, Edwards out in these boxing streets calling for a fight against Bam Rodriguez. Right, Rodriguez is on the shelf due to either fractured or an outright break in his jaw that he suffered in his last fight. Bam, of course, won the title WBO, vacant WBO belt at 112 pounds. What is the probability, and this is for either of you, Daniel and Gail, of seeing a fight between what would be a unification bout between Edwards and Bam either late this year or early in 2024?
So Eddie Hearn controls this division. That's not a bad thing because it means most of the top fights are makeable. I did see the Edwards fight. He put on a decent performance. It was not particularly an inspiring performance. And while I watched it with interest early in the day, after seeing that banger card from top to bottom, including one of the best all action women's fights you're ever going to see in the same division in flyweight between Barbie Juarez and Mayeli Flores. As an aside, go back and watch that. Hearn said after the fight that he promised Edwards a title fight before the end of the year. He didn't say, I promise you a title fight with Bam Rodriguez. That would be ridiculous. There are two reasons for it. A healthy Bam Rodriguez crushes Edwards like a bug. However, he isn't going to take a title fight after having his jaw completely broken in the previous fight. He's going to take a tune-up of some kind. And although Edwards is not particularly a power puncher, he might be a fairly safe opponent for Bam Rodriguez, but I don't think he's going to want to test his repaired jaw quite at that level. So I think chances are very, very slim unless everybody surprises me. Julio Cesar Martinez is also available. It also has a title. I think that's a very makeable fight. I think that is the proper fight. Because if we're looking at the pecking order in the division, Rodriguez is at the top. I would consider Martinez under him, and I would consider Edwards either under or lateral with Martinez. That's the fight to make. It's affordable. I would caution Eddie Hearn and Sonny Edwards from letting yet another Mexican come over to the UK and bust a champion, but that's really the fight to make. And I would look forward to seeing that.
Well, in terms of El Rey and Sonny, they tried to make that fight numerous times. Edwards contends that it's the camp of El Rey who's always been the one who's always been at fault for that fight not happening. Martinez looked solid in his last performance, right? Hopefully that fight can happen now. Coming off of the win from Martinez, he has some momentum now. And to the point of Bam, yeah, that's going to be a while before it happens. And I agree with you, Gail. It would not be wise for Bam to jump right back in there against the likes of an Edwards, coming off of that kind of injury. Get his feet wet, right? Get some of the ring rust off, then shoot for a fight with Martinez. But right now, as it stands right now, because Bam is on the shelf, yeah, try once again to make a unification bout between Sonny Edwards and Julio Cesar Martinez. Let's move on from England to the big fight that took place this weekend. Of course, MSG in New York City. Josh Taylor off of what, a 18-month layoff, returning to the ring against the Teofimo Lopez, who, let's face it, had a lot of questions heading into this bout. Had made his fair share of controversial comments. He said he had put a target on his back, right? And that's true. But on fight night, he showed up and fought extremely well. Took control, I'd say third, fourth round, right? And I say from that point on, pretty much had his way with Taylor. I don't know what was going on with Josh Taylor that night, Gail. He seemed stuck in mud, bad footwork, bad positioning, not good use of the jab, and he was just off. He was not on his game. In many ways, he kind of made it easy for Teofimo, in my opinion, because of how he fought. But you got to give Teofimo Lopez credit, right? He put the pressure on himself, and under those conditions, he showed improve. He beat Taylor, what turned out to be in a rout, and now he's the new WBO junior welterweight champion of the world.
Yes, he is. I watched just a portion of that fight live. So I had the benefit of watching it Sunday, knowing the outcome, knowing what everyone had commented and reported on, and heard the glowing reports, saw the post-fight comments. Our founder editor, Mike Woods, was covering for NY Fights. He was there. He actually was the one that asked Teofimo about who's next and got the retirement comment, which was interesting. So I went in looking to see the fight and see something really spectacular. I got to be honest, I saw a very, very good performance. I also saw a very diminished Josh Taylor, who clearly had something wrong with his legs, a knee, feet. Something in his foundation was off. He could never set his feet to throw a punch. He was off balance continually. As Teofimo was getting instructions to, step on his feet and work outside, when you've got that clash of orthodox and southpaw, you're always going to have those, sort of footsie issues, and Teofimo was very smart to be messing around with Taylor. Not to say that Taylor's issues were an excuse for his poor performance, but they certainly added to it. And not to say that Lopez's strong performance was only because he faced a diminished Taylor. Not at all. I credit him. We all wondered, could he deliver? Would he have the mental capacity to move forward, to be aggressive? Was the old Teo back? And it did seem like it was, which I've got to believe is why everyone was so excited, why everybody's saying he's now at the top of the division. He can take on all the big names. He's back. I think we need to slow roll this just a little bit. I didn't see exactly what everyone else was seeing in the cold light of Sunday morning. I get the excitement. Boxing is better with Teofimo Lopez Jr. in it. Senior, that's another discussion, but they're a package deal, folks. So I accept that. Do I think that he can wipe out everyone else in and around his weight class? No, I don't. I'd love to see him try. I would. But I'm slow rolling my enthusiasm just the tiniest bit, but it was a very good performance. There was controversy over the scorecards being too close, two of them at 115, 113. If you give Taylor some of those first few rounds, which I did, and some of us did give Taylor the first 3 rounds, which I did, I do think that card is too close, but it's still a winning scorecard. I'm not sure I get too hot and bothered about that, again, like many people were so excited about the fight. But good for Lopez. He did what he needed to do. His career is back on track. And we've got a lot of really good fights that could be made.
I think what Gail is saying here, Daniel, is that it was a nice win, and she's happy that Lopez performed well. But for others who are using this to make the argument that he's elite at 140, whether at 140 pounds or just saying that he's an elite fighter now in general. Temper the enthusiasm. Don't be a prisoner of the moment, because while this is a nice win, there's still some things there's still some unanswered questions here. And if you think that he would just run over the likes of a Regis Prograis based on this performance, no.
Here's what happened when they came to this fight that I thought myself a little bit interesting, and it's similar to, like I say, what we've seen happen with the Devin Haney Lomachenko fight, and mainly the being one fighter had came in with a lot more aggression back into the fight week into it. Granted, in this particular case, it was because of the comments Teofimo made to Josh Taylor. Josh Taylor came in very, very heated during the fight week and the final press conference, and I think that and whatever was affecting him physically probably hurt him in the first couple of rounds, because we probably expected that he would be able to take care of Teofimo, thinking that he's not there completely, and he would be able to take care of him in a couple of rounds. I said, beat the crazy guy and ultimately move on to welterweight. But that didn't happen, and it speaks a couple of things. Teofimo starting to look like a fighter that, as much as he fights down the competition, he also fights up to competition. We saw that situation versus Lomachenko, and we've seen the situation now with Josh Taylor, where he's He knows he has to put on a good performance. And then once he saw the weakness coming in, he settled in and pretty much, that's his name to say, took over a lot of the aspects of the fight. Like I think somebody mentioned that it looked like he was, I think around the 7th or 8th round, he was doing and one hand moves. Just because with his gestures in the middle of the fight. And even when you can feel like near the end of the fight where you can figure that you might have one last little exchange, Teofimo ran to the corner, just lifted his hands up in the last 10 seconds of the fight. Because remember, he didn't need to. He didn't need to do anything else. In that, when it came to that manner, his jab was crisper. His punches had more oomph to them, and ultimately, Taylor wasn't there. He just wasn't there. At a certain point, it became an exercise of futility for him to try to come back into that fight because his punches weren't hurting Teofimo. And by the time he was starting to build a combination, Teofimo was able to stop him either with a strong jab or a right. Now,
no, go ahead.
No, I was about to sneeze.
Okay. Now, big news made after this fight. Teofimo speaking to the boxing media. To Gail's point, in response to a question from her colleague, said that he's done. He's hanging up the gloves. He repeated that on ESPN, talking to Max Kellerman. Okay, if you really believe, let me put it this way, to you and to anybody else who's going to check out the episode, who out here believing that this dude is really going to retire at age 25? Because I'm not.
With that much money available on the table, Teofimo Lopez has just about as much chance of retiring as Tyson Fury does, which is 0. Did any of us believe that he was going to retire? No. Hell no. Interesting to me, Lopez has battled similar demons as Fury has. Boxing is a very emotional, walk on a tightrope kind of sport. And I do understand the pressure they're under, the spotlight they're under, what they've got to deal with inside and outside the ring. And we do know that right now Lopez is dealing with a lot of very difficult family issues. And anybody within the sound of my voice who's had to deal inside their family with divorce, child custody, whether it's you, someone you have close to you, it is rough. It is all consuming. I get that he needs to go and focus on that. And he's got the time to do that. He needs to take the time to do that. I would think less of him if he didn't. But that doesn't mean he's retired, folks. That's not happening. And I think after he attends to what he needs to, gets a little bit clear of the circumstances of last weekend, we're not going to have anything to worry about. He'll be back.
I mean, Daniel, I mean, look, he's already been informed that he basically has a year to do whatever he wants to do with that WBO title, excuse me. All that says to me is that, okay, I'm just going to sit back, hold on to the belt, and wait for the biggest offer available. Go ahead, Daniel.
Pretty much. This is pretty much what it is. He's going after he beat, he's doing the exact same play that he did when he beat Loma, which is basically, okay, I upset the apple cart. I beat the guy that you were putting up as the top dog, which is what Top Rank was doing. And let's be honest, if it were up to Top Rank, considering the things that Teofimo has done, unfortunately, in the meantime, they would have really loved for Josh Taylor to win this fight and win this fight decisively. He's doing the same thing. He's like, nope, I upset the apple cart. You have to deal with me again. he's not going to get to the payday that he's asking for because he's asking for $100 million to that type of payday. He's not going to get that. I'm sorry, like that's Canelo money. You're not getting Canelo money at that point. But what it does factor into it is it does give him a little bit more negotiating power when it comes to building up in the next fight. Because let's look at the other champions right quick. Matias, that would be an interesting fight from a technical standpoint, but it could be a trap fight the same way Campos was to him afterwards, after that big one, Lomachenko. I don't think he beats Ruguru. Not at this stage. Ruguru is already too established in that weight class. I'm still kind of surprised he's sticking around in that weight class. But he's the veteran. I don't think he's going to really be able to do much against Ruguru in that point. The only other champion, and keep in mind, this is also why more likely Ryan Garcia now is going afterwards, and it's probably the easiest fighter to make, is Rolly. Rolly, for some reason or another, has a belt. And it's the easiest opponent to make a unification with as far as thinking who you could win. The only thing, unfortunately, that's standing in the way of that is, unfortunately, the Cold War that's still in many ways affecting Bob and Al. And that's going to make it a little bit difficult because that also affects Matias' fight too. Ruguru might be the way he can go, even though I know Bob doesn't really like to deal a lot with Eddie right now. But at the end of the day, he's probably going to be able to do a couple of mandatories. One thing that can open up with Top Rank is probably Jose Ramirez. That'd be a good fight for Teofimo to win, even if he has to go to Fresno to do it. So there are possibilities there. It's just that when it comes to things like unification, some of them are going to be difficult, but he's not retired. But he's just, like I said, he's not going to get that. He's not going to get $100 million. He's not going to get that paycheck.
Well, there's another possibility, right? You mentioned the Cold War between Teofimo and Top Rank. If what Teofimo is saying is true, that he only has roughly 6 months left in his contract with Top Rank, he could wait that out, let that run its course, or get someone to buy out the remaining of his contract and shoot for another fighter. And that other fighter could be Tank Davis, who's right now in jail, serving out the rest of his in jail for basically violating house arrest, right? That a fight between Teofimo and Tank is arguably, from a money producing standpoint, the biggest fight in that weight area, that 135, 140 weight area. Coming off of this win, Teofimo, he's hot right now. His star is hot right now. Everybody's talking about him. Everybody's writing articles about him, including over at Three Kings Boxing. Again, please be sure to check out threekingsboxing.com, your source for pure unadulterated boxing information. And yeah, Gervonta is in jail right now, but he's getting out soon. He's a bona fide pay-per-view star. I penned an article on threekingsboxing.com where Teofimo trying to back up his claims that he's retired and saying that, well, what if I get a contract to fight Tank, and say he just don't want to go through the hassle of playing the waiting game. To me, that says he don't want to, if he gets the fight right now, he don't want to have to deal with Top Rank. But as soon as his deal is over with Top Rank, if that fight was offered, if the money's right, he's going for it. That's all I got from that. So to me, the other option is a fight with Gervonta Davis, or even a fight with Devin Haney. The bottom line is, do I think that Teofimo is the best at 140 pounds? Absolutely not. I agree 100% with Gail. That win does not say anything to me that he could beat a Prograis, particularly the Prograis who we saw last November become a two-time champion, right? But in this sport, money matters. Who has the power in that regard from a financial standpoint matters. And as it stands right now, from a financial perspective, Teofimo is the top guy. I don't care if he is retired, quote unquote. No one believes that was his final fight. He's going to return to the ring soon. And you best believe if the money is right, if he gets the right offer, may not be for nine figures, but if he gets a 10, 15, $20 million offer, he's going to take it, and we will see him back in the ring. Now, me, myself, in the chat room, mentioned the fight that we didn't talk about, and I was not planning to talk about it, but he's holding me accountable. We mentioned it, we previewed it last week, so let's talk about it now. I'm going to put me, myself, and nice comments in the chat while we talk about it. The return of AB Gale, Adrian Broner, fighting the lawyer, Mr. Hutchison, and
Who wants to talk about that? Who in the chat wants to talk about that? Wait a minute.
I saw replays of it because I refuse to watch it live.
Me myself, oh my God! Did you spend $25 on that? Seriously?
Let's face it, Broner did what he had to do. He had his way. Was huffing and puffing in the second, from basically second, third round on, but he just basically beat this dude up. It could have been argued that fight could have been stopped, but yeah, talk about it if whoever wants to about Broner. Me myself says in the chat here. I hope you didn't purposely avoid the Broner fight. AB is back and anyone can get it. I don't know if he's back, but all the other stuff and him calling himself the Can Man. Okay. He also says that AB needs an opponent after beating the lawyer. The lawyer, are you into? Yeah. Since I'm into fitness, I should sign AB. AB doesn't have any discipline. He doesn't have any discipline. And he needs a fight. But the question is, will he get the fight he wants? He's with King, but King doesn't have the power and the sway that he did 20 years ago. So yeah, Broner and the lawyer, and what could be in the future of AB. Daniel, Gail, who wants to talk about it?
Daniel's mic's off, so I could argue.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Daniel, did you watch this shit?
Oh, fuck no. No, fuck no. No, simply because of the matter of the fact is this is a Don King production, which you already know that the pay-per-view may already be pretty shoddy as it is. And unfortunately, at the end of the factor is this is Adrian Broner beating a lawyer that could beating a part-time fighter who's a lawyer. You don't gain. Let's be blunt. He ain't gaining shit from that. All of this is just getting more money. And from the only clips that I did see, which were on Twitter, along with another, unfortunately, exhibition that probably took over the entire weekend. The only highlights that I saw when they were from Twitter, and I'm sorry, AB looked really, really tired after the third or fourth round from the looks of it. Which kind of shows how much effort he put in the training camp when it came to this. Granted, you didn't have to put much because, like you mentioned, it's a part-time lawyer. The only funnier part would have been is if he would have lost. But this fight is set up so him to not lose. Does it mean that Broner is ready for anybody in the division? We just talked about it, 140, 147. If Teofimo is not ready for the likes of Prograis, Teofimo, Jose Ramirez, Matias, and even Rowley. If Teofimo may not be fully ready to take on those type of fighters, Broner at this stage of his career is nowhere near ready to take that. Let's keep it 100 at that point. He ain't doing that. He ain't doing that. But Unfortunately, it does have us. It does have people talking about him. Don King will drag this out for one more fight, and whoever he gets, it'll probably be another location. He'll probably get a next time. He'll get somebody that's a full-time chef somewhere else.
Anything else to add, Gail, or are you like Daniel
Oh,
basically spoke for me?
let me tell you, I did see little bits and pieces of the broadcast. I heard plenty about it from my colleagues while I was happily engaged watching UFC Fight Pass and Hollywood Fight Nights production out of LA, which was a darn good card or club card. Yeah, me myself, that's the deal. AB needs some money. We all know he needs some money. He's admitted that in the past, Tank Davis and Al Heyman have helped him out with some funds. I can't even imagine what the current tab is on Broner's child support bills alone. He's got what, 7, 8 children with multiple moms? Like, I don't mean like 3 moms, I mean like 6. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. So he needs a payday. But the broadcast, the announcers were apparently not well prepared. There were technical difficulties, some really cringe-worthy stuff going on. And then there was AB's post-fight interview rant. Now that you can find on Twitter. Be my guest. I'm not going to repeat it here. Having said all that, the man is an attention magnet. He did perform well, for what we expected. He made weight. Amazing. Of course, it was welterweight. He should have not had any trouble. He did look like he was in good condition. I'll hand him that. The fact that he could not get Bill Hutchinson, a Pennsylvania club fighter, out of there, that's an issue. But this is the time for truth, everybody. Would you not tune in at the low price of $24.99 or on your favorite streaming service to see a fight between Adrian Broner and Rolly Romero? Yes, you would. Yes, you would. Now, it would need to be at welterweight. That's the issue. Broner does not beat any top welterweight. I have my serious doubts whether Broner can make it down to 140 at all. Would Romero be willing to do a catchweight fight with Broner? I'm sure he would. But he's too big for the legitimate contenders in the division. I just don't see it. But Broner is a name opponent that draws a fan base for someone at welterweight who wants the eyeballs, who's willing to do it, and for a promoter who's willing to hold their nose and do business with Don King. Maybe they will. Yeah, you're going to see Broner back. You're going to see some kind of big fight hyped. You're going to see the same sort of ridiculous, words coming out of his mouth and issues, unless they get a decent promoter and broadcaster in there. Oh, and did we mention his ring walk attire? Have we mentioned that yet? His t-shirts with the hashtag free Tank. That's how he chose to enter the ring. Well, of course he wants Tank out. Tank has helped the man out, has helped the brother out with some bills. He needs Tank out of jail.
Yeah. The post-fight, from the highlights that I saw, the post-fight was the most entertaining aspect of this. He got the win. Nobody expected anything less. This is going to boost him back up there towards world contention. Nah. Me myself's comment, excuse me. Let me put this back up. He says that AB will get beat by any top fighters at 140 pounds. Teo, Josh Taylor, Regis, Matias, his best chance is going after Rolly, but that's not going to happen. Don King said they're going after the WBC route. Um, he can go after the WBC route and go after Rougarou if he want to. He take the beating of his life. So yeah, it is what it is. He got the win. I'm sorry, that wasn't me myself. That was Larry Liston. My apologies for that. He got the win. Where he goes from here, who knows? Who knows? Let's move on. Um, Interesting news going back to you, Gil, regarding one Canelo Alvarez, right? We saw him get the win against John Ryder last month. A lot of talk in these boxing streets about what's up next for the redhead, right? The assumption was that he was going to shoot straight for the rematch with light heavyweight champion Dimitri Bivol. But over the last week, there are questions about that, right? Um, Bivol has been in various interviews saying that he's heard no word from the camp of Canelo. And we've seen reports that Alvarez is now contemplating a fight with cruiserweight champion, WBC cruiserweight champion Badou Jack, or a possible fight against Jermall Charlo, who we have not seen in the ring in 2 years. What does it say to you about Canelo and uh, the current state of his career? And it's looking more and more like he's not going to fight Bivol in a rematch.
The issue with Canelo and Bivol is disagreement about where they want to contest the fight. Do they want to contest it at light heavyweight, which is where Canelo lost, or contest it at 168, where Canelo is the undisputed unified champion? Well, Bivol is in the driver's seat here. Bivol gets to put his foot down and say, I will fight you 175 or 168, and Canelo can take it or leave it. Bivol doesn't appear to be driven by the money so much as the tactical decision about where to fight him. Now, Bivol can make 168. And I would have said several years ago, before he hit 30, easily, he'll still make weight. He's incredibly disciplined. He'll need to work at it a little bit. But this is a guy at 175 who can have the breakfast the day of the weigh-in and still make weight. This is not
Right.
a problem. I've worked with him and I've seen him do it. It is nothing for him to come down to 168, and that is where it is smartest for him to take the fight, to take on Canelo on his own turf. If he wins, he is suddenly in one fell swoop a unified division champion. And also, by the way, the has a strap at light heavyweight, and he needs that. That is what's driving all of this. What Bivol really wants and has always been heading for is to become unified, undisputed light heavyweight champion, which is his natural weight division. And that means right now a fight with Artur Beterbiev. Well, we have a bunch of problems making this fight, not the least of which is the WBC putting its foot down because of the war between Russia and Ukraine. It is not sanctioning title fights involving Russian fighters or champions. And yes, technically speaking, Dimitri Bivol's passport says Russia on it. I get it. Dimitri Bivol has lived in California for a long time. He is ethnically not Russian at all. He is half Kyrgyzstani and half Korean. His mother is Korean. Nevertheless, the WBC is putting a monkey wrench in that plan, and they don't want to sanction the Beterbiev Bivol fight right now. So that's a problem. That may be the problem with Canelo, although Canelo could, in theory, drop that WBC belt, or Mr. Suleiman could assist with that fight, making it happen by making Canelo the WBC champion in recess, or franchise champion. Wouldn't surprise me one darn bit. And maybe that facilitates that fight. But the truth is, those are all difficult. That's not going to happen. Larry, thank you. He's mentioned his father's from Moldova. In any event, Larry's right on this. In any event, Bivol's not an ethnic Russian at all, and he's just as much Korean as he is anything else, which, is sort of funny to me. So here we are. Canelo, on the other hand, is looking around for something that will gear him up for a challenge. And at this point, a big darn paycheck is only so motivating for Canelo. He's got more money than he could ever possibly spend in his lifetime, generational wealth, his children, his extended family, people he met on the street. I mean, everybody in his orbit could be taken care of with that money and then some. So it takes more to motivate him. It takes some odd challenge or something he's never done before or stretching towards something that, on the other hand, doesn't currently risk his undisputed status super middleweight, first Mexican fighter ever to do so. That is a legacy accomplishment. It would also be a legacy accomplishment if he fought at cruiserweight. And this is not the first time he's mentioned this. Most fans who follow Canelo know that he talked up fighting champion Makabu before he lost his strap to, who did he lose his strap to? Trevor Bryant? Am I remembering that right? He lost.
No, Jack. He lost it to Jack.
Oh, he lost it to Jack. Pardon me. You're right. So Badou Jack has it. Badou Jack started at light heavyweight, fought at light heavyweight most of his career. He is not a big cruiserweight. He wasn't a particularly big light heavyweight, for that matter. When he fought Marcus Brown towered over him. It's not as crazy as it sounds. Badou Jack's also 39, heading toward 40, or maybe he's already crossed the decade barrier. I'm not sure. He was at 39 years old when he won the belt. And that's a big money fight for Jack to go out on, a big money fight for him. I'm sure the biggest paycheck of his career. He would be crazy not to say yes if he was offered that fight. And here's the linchpin, the clue that should let everybody know that this is an actual legit discussion. There is Saudi money involved in the discussion. So we all know that's, very legitimate. And there we go. And me, myself, you're completely right. The true challenge, not on paper, is for Canelo to defend his titles against David Benavidez. That's a very difficult fight, especially given Canelo's performances recently. It's a big risk. He does not want to risk the legacy of having that undisputed, unified champion status. He's not going to risk it. Not right now. Not when he can say, well, wait a minute, look, over there, I can win another division title, and there are role models for this. Come on. Most of you listening to this discussion should be thinking John Ruiz, Roy Jones Jr. Come on. Roy did it. Canelo wants to do it. There's precedent for this. I think that we're all seeing this coming together. Now, Jermall Charlo's also been mentioned. That's a great fight. That's also a challenging fight. I do think that's a better style matchup for Canelo than David Benavidez. That also would blunt some of the criticism that he has received, I think unfairly, that he does not fight black fighters. Well, that would tidy that problem up if he's concerned about it. And it's a very makeable fight with a lot of interest, two big fan bases, great paycheck for Charlo if he wants it. Honestly, while I'd love to see him tangle with David Benavidez, that's a barn burner fight. These other two options, don't hate me for saying that I don't hate either one. I really don't.
Well, in terms of the comments here, um, in the live chat about Benavidez and Canelo, and I'll put it up right quick from me myself. He says that um, the only person I want to see Canelo fight next is David Benavidez. That fight needs to happen. Um, he also says that if Canelo wants a challenge, he needs to fight Benavidez. Avoiding Benavidez is not looking good for Canelo. Here's the thing. Wrote an article about this for Three Kings earlier this week. We got in contact with Samson Likovitz, who is the promoter of Benavidez, and we talked about it I think either last episode or a couple episodes back. There were talks between Likovitz and Eddie Reynoso, who is the trainer and manager of Canelo. Likovitz claims that he made an official offer to Reynoso with Canelo, making upwards of $50 million for a fight with Canelo. Nothing's come from that. And during the discussion, which I took part in, a brief discussion with Likovitz, he's saying that they're no longer going to try to pursue a fight with Alvarez because it looks like they could get nowhere during early talks. So now the word is that Benavidez could fight David Morrell this October. And so that will be another excellent fight at 168 pounds. And let's just say it's a good possibility. I have on good word. I can't say where, but it's a very good possibility that fight between Morrell and Benavidez will get finalized sooner before later. I'll go to you, Daniel. Your thoughts on Canelo and who he's looking to fight next.
This, unfortunately, was the expected outcome to me. As soon as, after beating Ryder, Canelo blurted out, I want the rematch with Bivol, but he said exact same terms as the first fight, which would mean Canelo would be the A side, it would be at 175, and all the things that Bivol had to go through to make that fight, he would have to do it again. And obviously, because Bivol won, he doesn't want to take that. At that point, it's just a matter of pride, I think, with Canelo, because he's saying to himself, I'm still the cash cow. You still need to bet autonomy, even though I lost to you. That's one little, unfortunately, area where I could tell that it was never going to be that easy to make that fight if that's Canelo's stance. What makes it even murkier when it comes to making something in this fight like this is the WBC situation. Because as much as we can clown the WBC, and trust me, there's a lot to clown them on. This stance that they've had when it comes to Russian nationals, sanctioning fights against Russian nationals, is one of the things that they have been consistent about. And which would mean there's a hiccup in either way, whether it is a 168 or 168 if he's trying to fight Canelo fight, or 175 if Bivol's trying to make the fight with Beterbiev. Now, that Gail mentioned it before, like the last few shows. Yes, technically as a nationality, Beterbiev is also Russian, but he's also now a Canadian citizen. His passport's not Canadian, not Russian. So that's the little loophole that he can get out of it while still being the WBC champion. The Badou Jack situation, that's, to me, it's got to be something that involves a good amount of money, because Reynoso did throw the Makabu request I think at the last WBC convention, when PBC tried to enforce David Benavidez as Canelo's mandatory. It's pretty much the same move again, and which all falls into, again, the statements that Canelo has made, which are that he will never fight another Mexican for a world title. He just won't do it. And until he emphatically, explicitly recants those statements, there's no point in discussing Benavidez. And the second part of it as well is, we know Sam Lekowitz is the promoter of Benavidez, but we know who the actual power broker is because he falls under the PBC umbrella. It's Al Heyman. And Canelo's at this stage of his career where if you're going to talk to him, he's going to want to talk to the top guy. So Sam Lekowitz should not have been the one that made the offer. It should have been Al Heyman, the one that made the offer. And probably would have gotten more attention. Can I see a fight with Badou Jack? Yeah. Like I said, that Darvoy Jones, John Ruiz model is there. And Jack is an older fighter. He's also a fighter that unfortunately does have the tendency to come out short when it comes to important fights, whether through his home fault or his own. It happened against James DeGale. It's happened in other various fights, and this could be another one situation. Can I see it really happening? Probably, but the location is going to be the main thing, because even Canelo's also one of the fighters that's very, very image conscious in many ways. And even though other fighters have done it, like one Mr. Tyson Fury, he may be a little bit lurky about fighting in Saudi Arabia. They may take the Saudi money, but they might try to fight it. Like they might try to bring it to Las Vegas. That would probably be the safest way to bet. But unfortunately, the situation is what it is. Canelo's pride's getting probably in the way of him making the rematch with Bivol, which is probably the fight that he actually wants. And the only other route to get that fight is to try to fight Beterbiev, but Beterbiev is going to be busy with Callum. So he better hope that Callum beats Beterbiev, because he already knows he beat Callum and he can make that fight.
That's a very good point. I have heard Canelo talk about interest in fighting in the Middle East. That's a new fan base for him. He seems to think he'd be very well received, despite the fact that if he faces Jack, he's going to face a very popular Muslim fighter who now lives in Abu Dhabi, I believe. He does live permanently in the Middle East. That's now his residence. He does not seem at all opposed to this. The other nice thing for Canelo is he's completely a free agent. He likes working with Eddie Hearn. He likes Eddie. They kind of have this bromance going on. Eddie has gotten him big money. Eddie is very comfortable staging fights in the Middle East. Canelo is surely aware that if he signed a short-term deal with Eddie to facilitate this fight, he'd be taken care of with somebody who knows how to do business there and get maximum money. So I don't think Canelo would hesitate. I really don't. And he would, I'd be shocked if he wasn't the prohibitive betting favorite. And Badou Jack has got to know that winning that belt at cruiserweight, was what, finally got him the accomplishment he's been looking for a long time. That can never be taken away from him. If he is truly almost ready to cash out a career, well, heck, you could either, face somebody just to say you defended your title and call it a day, or go ahead, give yourself a shot, underdog, possibly lose it to Canelo, and walk away with life-changing money. Life-changing money after a very long, tough career. That's very appealing. Very appealing when you're an almost 40-year-old fighter.
Absolutely. We'll keep you updated here on Pound for Pound Boxing Report in terms of what Canelo Alvarez decides to do next and who he will fight. Um, the last 48 hours, Gail and Daniel, we've been flooded with talk of Errol Spence and Bud Crawford. They spent back-to-back days this week um, on the press tour. One was in LA yesterday. Earlier this afternoon, they had a press event up in New York. I believe you attended the one in LA, Gail. Your recap of the vibe, what you saw from both men, the talk among the media, among your media colleagues at the one in LA, and just your overall assessment of how this press junket has been going between the two fighters.
Neither Errol Spence nor Bud Crawford have been known for being, two of boxing's bigger personalities outside the ring. They're both kind of, very low key.
Monotone.
Bud has taken hits in the past for being a little surly to deal with as far as media goes, and Errol just simply, letting his performances speak for him in the ring. Well, these two guys yesterday and today at their two pressers, the personalities came out to play. And I think that the problem all along has been that neither of them felt like there was anything to push them. There wasn't the challenge in front of them. Now, both of them face the biggest challenge of their careers, and they finally have some enthusiasm. They're fired up. They're excited. All these other fights have just been another day at the office for these guys. This one, it's getting their juices going, and you can see it, and we've been able to hear it, and I am loving it. They are trash talking each other, but there's still an undercurrent of respect. They're trashing each other, and then on the other hand, making clear to say, well, I expect him to have a great performance. I respect his skills. I this and that, and then they're still going at each other. And at times they've been a little bit mean, but they've never been mean-spirited. There's a difference. And some of the banter has just been plain funny. Just laugh out loud funny. So yesterday's theme was about fishing, right? Apparently the theme of this fight is, big fish and, all this, right? So, and Terence is, honest to God, outside the ring, an avid fisherman. It's one of his hobbies. He likes fishing. I think that's like watching paint dry, but that's me. So, so Bud yesterday was like, well, I like to go fishing, everybody. I'm going to catch me some big fish. We're going to have a fish fry. There's going to be enough for everybody. Well, I keep after he beats Errol. And Errol's saying to him, he's not catching me with no fishing pole. I'm the biggest. You can't catch me with a fishing pole. That's like catching Moby Dick with an effing, he said the word, fishing pole. That's damn funny. And Bud said, well, they've all been caught before, and July 29th, he's going to be caught too. I got big enough hoop for him, meaning a fish net. I'm already reeling it in. And then Spence said, your ass better have a submarine. And Bud's like, I'm going to put him on the bank. I'm going to gut him. I'm going to fillet him, lay him, chop his head off, cut him from the gut. The little butt up, take the little vice grips, pull the skin off. This guy does know what he's talking about fishing, because that is exactly what you do. And then Bud calls out to the audience, says, y'all like fish? Y'all like fish? You're going to give everybody some fish. We're going to give you some fish too. So that was the theme yesterday. Today, the theme was about smoking some Jamaican. So Spence, at one point today, while they're in New York, says, we Jamaican, man. We smoke, Bud, right? And so Bud picks up the thread, goes right with it. He starts laughing. And then Spence says, "Oh, you know already how this goes. We're gonna smoke your ass up, and it's legal in Vegas too. We're gonna smoke your ass up. We're gonna roll you up and smoke you. You're the new Bud strain." Now that is funny. And then Crawford, he's still laughing so hard he can hardly say this. He said, "Well, y'all do smoke Bud, but you know what the crazy part about it is? Y'all do smoke Bud in Jamaica, but this ain't no kind Bud. You feel me? This ain't like the Bud you can buy on the street. This is that marinated Bud. You hit one puff, you're going to be seeing stars like how high." That is funny. And then Spence just kept at it and at it. And he says, "Well, I can't do that. I'm trying to make weight." And then there was some chatter in the crowd, which I've heard later, that people were saying, "Wait a minute. Is Errol saying he's struggling to make weight? What?" No. He's just joking around. Promoter Tom Brown later said, "Nope, he's dialed in. He's fine. Everything's fine. Just calm down." So it's been very funny, very fun. These guys are actively involved in selling this fight. They get it. And you can tell that while they're very serious about taking the other down, underneath it all, they like each other. They're glad to be doing business together. And there was discussion yesterday in Los Angeles about getting the fight made. And both of them saying, you know what it took? It took us getting together, getting on the phone, multiple phone calls, talking to each other, talking not just about the fight, but talking about what's going on with you. How are things? How's life? How's your family? You know, friendly, get to know you, mature conversations. And that undercurrent is still there too with both these news conferences. We were also told we are going to get 3 all access specials from Showtime. First one drops, I think, in 2 weeks. So I would imagine it's going to include this kickoff and probably some early training, some discussion with the trainers. Both Derek James and Brian Bomack McIntyre spoke. Promoter Tom Brown is doing the representation from the promotional side, and Steven Espinoza of Showtime Boxing, who's got to be absolutely thrilled beyond belief that they got this fight, they got it done, they got this on the books. So we'll let the show continue. The one other observation, and I'm sorry, I've just got to make it. I just have to. How much bigger is Bomack going to get? Oh my God. That man is big.
Oh my gosh. We just had a discussion
whoa.
about him.
Michael, he needs to talk to you. He needs a trainer himself. Ooh, he's a big, he's always a big man, but now he's beyond big. I mean, he couldn't even sit in the chair.
Right.
Yes, he couldn't.
As some know, I am a senior writer for Three Kings Boxing, and interestingly enough, before we hit the live button in here, we was in a staff meeting with one another, and that became a topic. Bomack. Let's just say he needs to check that. It's not good of him to be carrying on that kind of weight. And he seems like he's getting bigger instead of longer. And if he wants to be here and live a decent lifestyle for the next few years to come, either he has to look in the mirror and have a serious talk to himself, or dare I say, Crawford himself has to have a real sit down with him and tell him, you need to get that together. Because I mean, the boxing Twitter or boxing social media still clown this dude in Bud's last fight, when Bud was training, sitting there warming up, and Bomack was sitting there eating a bag of Cheetos. Let's just say it's not a good look. It's not a good look.
It's not. No, he's got to know. I mean, somebody, I mean, he's got to know, right? Somebody's talked to him. Nobody gets to be that big and not realize that, you're big and your health is at risk. I don't want to fat shame anybody. You're
Yeah, it's not just
your business
you
is your
don't want to
business,
fat
but
shame anybody either,
there is
because
a point.
that's wrong. But there are health concerns there that has to
Yeah,
be
there
addressed.
there truly are, and he's a young man. I mean, he's still a young
Right.
man. I get it. Apparently, he's still very, very much able to do his job. I have seen him working mitts with Bud, although he doesn't do it much anymore. Usually, his assistant trainer does it now. You just got to be concerned when you're carrying around that much weight. Bottom line, maybe the rest of your health indicators are good, but it is hell on your knee joints to carry around that much excess weight. And it's really hard to make your heart work that hard. So
Right.
that's going to catch up with you. Both of those things inevitably catch up with you. I would hate to see that.
Go to you, Daniel. Your quick assessment, of the press tour for Spence Crawford.
They are clearly relaxed. They are clearly relaxed and in a way relieved that they're actually doing this, that they're actually having this press conference, that this fight is actually a reality. Which, like I said, I had my doubts for a long, long time. I'm eating some crow right now, but I'll happily eat the crow because we'll see the fight that we've wanted to see when it comes to the welterweight division now. And I think that's a good weight off of the shoulders. And you could tell by the banner. Like Gail mentioned it's funny, so it does have a mean sting to it, but it's not mean spirited. It isn't vicious. And that's the main thing. It's just a relief that both men have been able to make this fight and are now going to settle the question rather than leave it as a question of who's the best at 147. And keep in mind that Gail mentioned this, and it's something that we have to keep in mind too. They did say that what took to make the fight was just them sitting down and talking to each other and just talking business man to man, not having the insularies of lawyers, managers, and promoters doing the talking. That's the exact same playbook that now anyway and Stephen Fulton used to make their fight at 122 pounds. So maybe this could be the start of fighters realizing that the divisions that prevent them making those fights are there, but if they can get through to them and just talk to each other and have it all settled down, at that point, then you realize the fighter's the one that has the power. The promoter has to make sure that the fighter gets what they want, and we can get more fights made.
I mean, what do you know? Sitting down like adults, being professional, and the fight gets made. I wish more boxers would do that. And to your point, yeah, the media blitz is on full bore, right? And all roads lead to them in the ring on July 29th, and we all have our fingers crossed that the fight is as good, turns out to be as good as we all hope it to be, as good as the hype. Let's move on here because we're running a little bit pressed for time, getting close to the 90-minute mark. Let's get to preview some of these fights, right? Two fights I'm going to talk about here. I'm going to split these up. Let's begin in Australia. Last time, Daniel, we saw Tszyu in the ring. It was earlier this spring, late winter, ninth round stoppage over Tony Harrison to win an interim title at 154 pounds. Tszyu, while still waiting for Jermall Charlo to get the AOK, the clean bill of health, for a fight with him. Tszyu returns to the ring to fight Carlos Ocampo. Decent scrap, right? But Tszyu is going to be the prohibitive favorite going in my opinion. If he does what he has to do, tends the business, doesn't slack off from a concentration standpoint, he should win this.
Yeah. he is a prohibitive favorite. Obviously, it's in Australia. He has momentum going. He had to take the fight because he has to keep himself active and not just simply wait on the fight with Mel to come through, even though pretty much agreed to it. Mel wants to fight. So it's good to kind of keep in the ring, and it does to keep him focused because sometimes you can have a situation where there's a trap fight where you think you're riding high, you've got everything ahead of you, and it's just a stumbling block that happens. Campos is a good enough fighter where that can happen, but I don't think it will. I think Tszyu's going to come in. He knows what's ahead of him. He knows what he needs to do to maintain his position at 154 pounds because there's going to be plenty of other fighters coming up soon that are going to be able to challenge him for that title at 154. So, yeah, Tszyu should be the favorite, and he should be comfortably a favorite.
That fight takes place June the 18th in Queensland, Australia. On the 17th, the matchroom debut of Regis Prograis. We talked about his name has been mentioned throughout this episode. Prograis, WBC champion at 140 pounds. He makes the first defense of that title, Gale, in his hometown of New Orleans, fighting Danielito Zorrilla. Don't know much about Zorrilla, but from what I've seen of him on film, decent fighter, but there are levels to this. I would say that Rougarou is clear levels above Zorrilla. And if he performs the way that he did against Jose Zepeda when he won the belt last November, there's a possibility that he could get a stoppage. But yeah, this is all being shaped up to be quite the homecoming for Rougarou Prograis.
That's exactly what it's intended to do. That's what will happen. He's going to have a little coronation. He's going to get to do a little Mardi Gras parade strut in and out of the ring. Danielito Zorrilla will not lay down. He will be a good test, a good opponent. He'll give a great effort. And it wouldn't be half the enjoyable return if Prograis didn't get a little friction, right? So this is exactly the right opponent for him. And you could argue, given what we just saw with the Teofimo fight, given the performance, the performance at catchweight, admittedly, of Ryan Garcia and the unknown quantities of, how he's going to continue to be performing at 140. The status of Jack Catterall being unknown. Subriel Matias, certainly a good fighter, but name after name after name, if you're pressed to say who's at the top of this division right now, don't you really have to say Regis Prograis? Finally, Regis Prograis, after a lot of watching and waiting and getting screwed out of opportunities and guys missing weight. I'm looking at you, Maurice Hooker. Prograis is finally going to have that opportunity to take over. Apologies to Teofimo Lopez. I think that is exactly what's going to happen. So he's going to need to work his way toward that. There's going to need to be some promoter side of the aisle issues, etc. But Prograis gets himself right there into the mix at 140. Once we see the current generation at the top of welterweight pass along, once Errol Spence and Terence Crawford finish their business, whether it's one fight, two fights, or three, Prograis is going to move right up there and be in a perfect position to pick up belts that end up being vacated because guys retire, probably. Or certainly in Spence's case, go up to 154. That wouldn't surprise me. But I think once Crawford is done with Errol, he's done. So Prograis, there are just so many good paths for him. And this will be the first step down that road. Everybody, I'm sure, is looking forward to it. A note on the Tszyu Ocampo fight, while it is on the calendar showing June 18th, That is June 18th in Australia's time
That's
zone.
right. That's right. It'll
It
be
will
June
be
the 17th here in the
It
United
will
States.
be,
Yeah.
and it is being aired by Top Rank at a normal sort of prime time spot, 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 Pacific on Saturday night.
And in terms of the program, it'll be it. I'm interested to see who will be in attendance. Right? You mentioned Subriel Matias. Him and Prograis have exchanged some back and forth trash talk in interviews. Right? Devin Haney, who is coming off of the tough win over Lomachenko. He's talking about a move up to 140 pounds, and Progress basically gave Haney an open invite on Twitter to attend the fight. Will Haney be there? He's contemplated attending, at least in public, on social media. So he may be at ringside. Matias may be at ringside.
If that's the case, then also Shakur will be at ringside with the way he's trolling Haney lately.
I mean, seriously, who wouldn't want to be ringside? Because, heck, if you're based in Las Vegas like Haney is, you can fly in, have a killer dinner, have a great meal in New Orleans, see a fight.
Yeah,
go
yeah.
home.
With
Who wouldn't want to go to dinner
yeah.
in New Orleans for the night and come back?
Yeah, with like I was mentioning with Haney, basically Prograis is offering giving Haney an open invite to be ringside with the trash talk between Prograis and Matias, with Broner running his mouth. You could see quite a few fighters in and around 140 pounds in New Orleans that night. So I'm watching for how Prograis perform. I'm also watching to see who will be there, scoping him out, doing some doing their own observation and some scoping to see how Progress looks on fight night. And I think we're going to end things on that note. I want to thank everybody who joined us in the live YouTube chat. Larry, Liston, me, myself, appreciate your comments and your questions. Again, if you're checking us out here on YouTube, please make sure, if you haven't already, please make sure to hit that like button, to hit that subscribe button. It'll help the overall algorithms during and after the show. Also get us closer to being monetized. Going to go around the panel here. Begin the show with ladies first, always end the show with ladies first. Gail from nyfights.com. For those who want to talk boxing, for those who want to talk media, and as I said last week, talking about how some of these fighters, they need PR folks. If you're looking for a PR person who's really good at what they do, I suggest you check out my regular here on Pound for Pound Boxing Report. Gail from NY Fights, for those who want to talk boxing, media, or check you out occasionally on TMZ Live. Let the folks know where they can find you.
Well, you're very kind. I will say, in defense of my colleagues who work in public relations in the boxing world, many of them are also exceptional at what they do. Many of them have got to juggle a whole lot of different fighters. So it's like playing whack-a-mole some days. And sometimes you just can't keep the phone out of their hands. What can I say? And we all know who I'm talking about. You can find me at nyfights.com with an occasional rant. The last one was about Broner. Who knows what I'll be fired up about next?
I go to you, Daniel. Still probably, I'm guessing, disappointed over his Miami Heat, who lost the other night to Denver in the NBA Finals. So I appreciate him being on because his beloved Miami Heat got lost in 5 games. For those who, Daniel from For Boxing News Indian Scriber, for those who want to talk boxing, for those who want to talk pro wrestling, for those who want to talk the NBA, especially in any and all things Miami Heat, let the folks know where they can hit you up.
Find me on Twitter for Rocks99, RAWKUZ99. Yeah, it's been a rough week when it comes to South Florida sports.
And your Florida Panthers, yeah.
Yeah, we got curb stomped in Vegas. Curb stomped them
That
Vegas,
that
but
that game 5, what was it? Yeah, 9-3.
9-3. Yep,
Not
I
yeah,
think that was tied for the most goals scored in Stanley Cup game, Stanley Cup final game. But hey, congratulations to Denver. I think that's about time we can settle the discussion on whether or not the Joker Jokic is actually one of the best centers in the league. We can settle that right now. He is arguably the best center in the league. Sorry, Mr. Embiid. And like I said, for the Vegas Golden Knights, hey, they came out of the gate hot during the start of their franchise, and they finally got it in. Congratulations to them. But yeah, the tough week. But hey, we got Messi. We got Messi.
yeah,
So that's
yeah. Decide to come to MLS. So yeah, y'all got Messi, indeed. Not Messi as in Messy, Messi as in Messi. Uh, um, the legend, soccer football player Messi. For those who want to talk boxing, music, fitness, you know what it is with me on social media. Brother JR at Brother JR76 on Twitter if you want to talk boxing, music, fitness, and fragrance with me on IG and TikTok. You can do so at Brother JR SC. On the next episode, we will do a recap of Prograis and Zorrilla, excuse me. Do a recap of Tszyu and Ocampo. We may talk about some fights on the Tszyu card because Rai Salim, Highland ranked junior featherweight, is fighting on that card in Australia, as well as Liam Wilson, who remember him in his loss to Navarrete in the controversial moment. I think it was in round 4, I want to say, when he put Navarrete down, and many people felt that Navarrete benefited from a long count in that fight. Well, Liam Wilson, he returns to the ring to fight Eduardo Ramirez on the undercard of Tszyu Campos. So we may talk about all of those fights, and we will preview what sets up to be an outstanding rematch on June 24th in Tokyo. Daniel, Gil, myself, as well as other colleagues in the media realm, we watched this the first fight between Kazuta Ioka and Joshua Franco live on Mikey Garcia Instagram page. Well, the fight ended in a draw. A lot of people, including the three of us, felt that Franco won that first fight. Well, those two are set to square off again June 24th in Tokyo. So we'll do a full scale preview of that fight. It's going to
But
take place.
we demand our Garcia cast. We demand Garcia cast return because, friends, watching the fight from the corner with Mikey Garcia commentary was epic, and I would pay for that. I'm just saying,
Right.
Mikey. I'm just saying, you're
Right.
retired. You need a new career. Just it's worked great for the Manning brothers. I'm just saying.
Right.
yeah,
So
Mikey
again,
or Robert, either one of y'all.
right. So again, that's going to take place June 24th in Tokyo. Also on the 24th, a lot of boxing going to happen the weekend of the 24th. You're going to have Carlos Adames going to fight J. Rock Williams in a 160-pound clash on the undercard there. The return of Erickson Lubin fighting Luis Arias. Fernando Martinez going to defend the IBF junior bantamweight title against Jay Bornea. That's all going to take place on Showtime. Also on the 24th, Edgar Berlanga makes his debut with Matchroom, fighting Jason Quigley. Adam Kawanaki is going to fight on the undercard there. So a lot of boxing we're going to preview for the weekend of the 24th. So again, I want to thank everybody once again for joining us in the live chat. Appreciate your comments and your questions. For Gail of nyflights.com, for Daniel of For Boxing News and the Inscriber, I'm your host, Michael. This has been episode 408 of the Pound for Pound Box Report. We will see you guys next time. Y'all have a good one. Good evening. Good night.